Hello, my friends. This is Jeff Yalden, celebrity teen and family life coach. I'm here to talk to you about teen depression and teen suicide. It's real, folks. It's real. I just got a message this morning about two deaths in Olathe, Kansas, one on Friday night and also one just this past Sunday. Why is this happening? Well, I have a few thoughts on this. Number one, I think we're raising kids in a society today with education that our young people are losing the ability to cope with different situations, or they're losing the ability to problem solve on their own. I mean, think about it. You're probably an adult watching this video, and when you and I were growing up, we'd play sports. We'd maybe come home, have something to eat, go outside, play kick the can. We'd run around with our friends. We'd climb the tree. We'd beat up the neighbor, and we had to figure things out on our own. We had to work out differences, understand how to play a game. We had to communicate within our own. And they're saying today, teenagers are averaging some 50 hours a week on screen time. This is leading to isolation, not having to work things out. And there are studies on Facebook, and by the way, Facebook is not even cool anymore for teenagers. Facebook is for the parents and the older people. But there are studies that say that kids feel sad if they compare their lives to that of other people on social media platforms such as Facebook, or today different social media platform, but I think it's the same thing, Instagram, Twitter, or Snapchat. I mean, think about it. When kids see themselves not as popular as maybe other people, or they see friends having fun and they're not having fun, what does it lead to? It leads to isolation, which then could lead to sadness or discouragement or depression, which then we have some issues today. And also, there are studies here, Medical News Today says that Facebook or another social media platform may feed anxiety and increase a person's feeling of inadequacy. So think about that. If our young people are on such a platform and other people are having the fun, like I just mentioned, or they're smiling, they're out doing things, and they're not, they don't feel they're worthy as they look at other people. So something to keep in mind. Cell phones on teens. Our teens are on 24 hours a day, parents. So understand the expectations that we have and the challenges that our teens face today. Teenagers sleep with their cell phone, and I don't want to go too much into this. I think it's dumb. I think all parents should take their teen's cell phone by about 9:30, 10 p.m. Because if a notification comes in at midnight, by the way, I think if a notification comes in at midnight, not something that teenagers should be dealing with. I think that's something probably the parent should be dealing with. So our teenagers sleep, and through the night they get notifications that takes them out of that level 4 deep sleep. Now they're awake to look at the notification, and don't tell me they're just looking at what the notification is. Now they're going to go look at Instagram or Snapchat and see what's going on, what people might be doing, who people are talking about. Now all of a sudden they got to fall back into that deep sleep, which is going to take some time. So I don't think our kids should be sleeping with their cell phones. I think you should go to Walmart or go to some convenience store, whatever, and buy a $10 or $15 alarm clock that just flashes in red letters, it's 1 a.m. So when your child gets up, they see it's 1 a.m., they go to the bathroom, they come back to bed. Much safer, much more beneficial for a teenager in getting their sleep and the proper amount of sleep. I think teenagers need at least 8 hours of sleep a night, at least 8 hours, and 9 hours if you're ugly. That was a joke. This is teen depression, teen suicide, so I don't want to make it just, depressing. Get over it. The impact that cell phones have on a teenager's life. Majority of teens view their cell phone as the key to their social life. Their cell phone is the key to their social life. Cell phones don't even talk back to you. I guess it just gives you the opportunity to talk to whoever you want. Second only to clothing, teens say a person's cell phone tells the most about their social status or their popularity. Which I agree with, because when the iPhone 6 Plus came out, I was at a particular high school, and when I was talking to some kids about it, and there were about 1,600 kids in this particular school, all the kids knew that one person that had the iPhone 6 Plus. Imagine that. So teen depression. It's a very unsettling time, I think, between the ages of 13 and 19 years old. Not just hormones, but kids going through different phases of life and learning about themselves and the physical, emotional, and psychological social changes that accompany this stage of life. Parents, be careful. There's so much that teenagers are bombarded with, let alone all of these changes that they're going through. So it's necessary that you understand that there is sadness, there is hardship, there is pain, there's misunderstanding, there's lack of communication. So one thing that I always say, the number one person that a teenager should be able to go with in the time of need is their parents. So mom and dad, my question to you is simply this. If your teenager does not feel that they are able to go to you and that they can trust that you're going to be there and be non-judgmental, then I think you need to reevaluate your parenting and really understand better that your child is hurting and they need a trusted adult in their life. Teen depression, there are many ups and downs in life. Sometimes the ups, sometimes the downs. Sometimes the downs outlast the ups. Experts estimate that teen depression strikes about 1 in 8 teenagers. That's alarming. The symptoms of teen depression, I think, are very similar to the symptoms of teen suicide. Some of them just off the bat, withdrawal from family and friends. They're withdrawing with, loss of interest in different activities that they may have participated in, lack of energy, anxiety, feeling tired most of the time, irritability, anger, feeling of sadness, weight fluctuations, sleep pattern changes. Young people today are afraid to be a burden. So these are symptoms that can be experienced by nearly everyone at some point in life. The problem is, in the general rule of thumb, if a symptom, if 1 or 5 of these symptoms are continuing for at least 2 weeks or more, I think you need to be alarmed and you need to ask your child or a child if there's a greater meaning to this. And one of the questions that I always get is, Jeff, how? You just ask. Maybe one of the questions where your child might be help is, I know you're hurting. Do you ever feel like you just want to go to bed and never wake up? And if your child says yes, I highly recommend you get your child into counseling and you get them to someone that's a professional that can help further diagnose this. And I think you should also be willing to go through this counseling with them. There are 2 types of depression. It's major depression and a depression that's called dysthymia. I always mispronounce that. But the major depression is of short duration, although it's quite severe. And it's possible to have about a severe depression, feel fine for a few months or even years, then go back to it. Now, the other depression, dysthymia, lasts much longer than major depression, and the feelings are not as severe. Some teens have this low-level depression that plagues them for years without even having it diagnosed. Now, this type of depression can also lead to teen suicide if a teenager becomes discouraged with never feeling happy. The third depression, which isn't one of the major types, has to do with a lot of life changes. Maybe your parents have gone through a divorce. Maybe they've moved. I hear about that a lot. It's called adjustment disorder with depressed mood. And like moving to a different town, divorce, a new family, new siblings or something. Treatment for teen depression, I think, is very simple. Number 1, have the courage to identify that maybe your child is hurting or that your student is hurting. Number 2, have the courage to question the person. Don't ever be afraid to question the person. Thirdly, persuade them to get help with encouragement. Always be encouraging. Always take the time to listen. And number 4, refer them to somebody that's more professional than you, and let them know that this is important, that it's going to be okay, that you're willing to listen and walk through it with them. I think that's really important. A couple other things that causes of teen suicide, divorce of parents, violence in the home, inability to find success at school, a burden, feeling worthlessness, rejection, substance abuse, death of someone close, disappointment. And the signs of suicide, like I said earlier, are very similar to the signs of depression. So be proactive. Don't be afraid to ask, and just come straight out, have the courage to get involved. Also, I think I said earlier that the signs are very clear. You just have to kind of be looking for them. And teen suicide can be prevented, and there are always signs out there. And like I said, 90% of the suicide cases, there was some type of mental disorder out there. So I think counseling, residential treatment, I think also medication. And I know some of you parents like, whoa, I don't want medication. We're over medicating kids today. And while I agree with some of that, I also think that if you're under the right care of a physician, medical treatment with medication is something that can really help. It also can have an adverse effect on a teenager if it's not watched closely. So, my friends, this is Jeff Yalden. If you're looking for suicide prevention training, I am certified to help you and your staff at schools, teachers, even some of your student leaders, how to identify students that might be hurting, to teach them how to question them, to teach them how to persuade them to trust you, to open their hearts to help, and also to train them to refer them to someone professional that can take on such a case that certainly a teenager shouldn't be doing, but I think it's important because teenagers can help other teenagers. So mom and dad, to anyone that's listening, I do ask you that if you're a trusted adult in the life of a teenager, you be the person that they can trust, who they respect, and whose opinions they value. I really appreciate you listening, and don't ever hesitate to visit my website, jeffyalden.com. I would love to talk to you about suicide prevention training. Thank you for listening.